Jen Logie. Talofa
Talofa, Mr Speaker. And it's with pleasure I rise to take the call on this, the third reading of the Credit Contracts and Financial Services Law Reform Bill, which the Green Party is also pleased to be supporting. We recognise and share the concern at how long it has taken for this to get to the House, that we noticed that the review of the CCCFA was commenced in 2008 and that this legislation has had an incredibly long gestation. And while we have been waiting and the government has been moving ever so slowly, people have been being trapped into debt and further entrenched poverty. And as we know, that these delays have caused real harm. So it is a pleasure to have this at least in front of us tonight, to be able to pass, to move into that next stage of ensuring some protection for New Zealanders. I do need to speak to some of the reasons that we have to have this legislation, that what drives people to needing to borrow money. And those drivers are things that we believe should be addressed, and that it isn't enough just to restrict ourselves to this kind of secondary measure of preventing the worst of the harm after people have been driven into poverty. We have a duty in this country, I believe, and the Green Party believes, to actually eliminate poverty. We have enough wealth in this country to be able to distribute it in a way that we don't have poverty. And I just really want to speak, we've heard this evening some people talking around people being caught into these terrible contracts because of a lack of literacy, a lack of financial literacy. But it's really important to actually just put on record that desperation, I believe, is probably the main driver for people getting into these agreements. Because if you don't say you've got the opportunity for a job, but it requires a car and you don't have one, and you want to get yourself and your family out of poverty, then if you don't have access to that cash, then the only way you're going to enable that to happen previously has been to get into this kind of arrangement. And the people that have preyed on that desperation are worthy of our contempt, not just our regulation. And there were, in front of the Select Committee, some contracts that were shown where a company and it was from the door-to-door sales, and I do want to point out as well, I live in one of those communities that's targeted by these people, and I've been a renter in Wellington for many years and moved around between communities where that has not been the case. I'd never, before moving to the community I now live in, had people coming to my door to sell me things, and that is now a quite normal reality in my community, because it is a target community, because it is a low-income community. And one of the Mangere Budget Advice in their submission to the Select Committee gave an example from a door-to-door sales situation where a family had been sold a vacuum cleaner, and it was available on Trade Me for about $400, but that family didn't have that money up front, and they ended up getting into this contract arrangement where they ended up paying over $5,000 for a vacuum cleaner to be able to provide a clean house for themselves. Now, it is pleasing that this bill will go some way towards preventing that degree of exploitation, but it is without the interest rate cap. It isn't going to fully protect these families who are going to continue to be preyed on by these companies. And we know that it's not uncommon for the annual percentage interest rates to be over 50%, 100%, or even higher. So people are paying well over 100% over the cost of the actual item, and that deserves our contempt, and this is one step towards changing that exploitation.
are the Honourable
Just,
Stanley.